Hello everyone, 2022 has been quite the year. 2021, to be honest, everything hasn't been quite the same since March of 2020, but we did finally get to see some release dates in 2021 of films that were delayed in 2020. And I have to say it was quite a year, but still it wasn't quite a safe year. And if it wasn't on streaming, I probably did not go see it unless it was like a big tentpole film like Fast and Furious or No Time to Die or even Spider-Man. Myself and many others out there are probably films that we all missed, that we did not get a chance to see. And this list is going to be very late compared to my previous years. And that's because there are still some films that I wanted to see that I knew would be part of the top 10. However, there's been a lot of films that were overhyped as hell. Some films that I thought that would make the top 10 that did not even make it close. I'm like, what are people seeing? It's like some films I thought were mediocre or overhyped. They were well crafted, but they were missing something. They felt soulless, they felt very mundane. And there are certain films where I'm like, I think people were equating their experience being back in the theater versus the actual film itself. So to say the least, this will be a controversial list and it will greatly differ from your list out there. Again, this is my favorite films of 2021. Not what I consider the best, but ones that I enjoyed the most. So feel free to share your favorite films of 2021 down in the comments below. Remember to be respectful towards one another. And I'd like to give a big thanks to people who submitted their favorite films of 2021. Your responses will be featured at the end of this video. To start off with some honorable mentions are Judas and the Black Messiah. I love the leads. This film deserved every type of award it got, although I do wish Lakeith Stanfield was recognized a bit more for his role, but there's a lot of stuff here. It's based on a true story, civil rights era, but there's a lot of stuff in this movie that's still pretty damn relevant today, which is sad and just kind of puts things in perspective for individuals, you know? Then we have Tragedy Macbeth. While this isn't the best Macbeth adaptation I've seen, I have to say I like the art direction and style of it. It's like German Expressionism mixed with like a 1940s film, black and white. I love the gothic look of this movie. Denzel plays the Mad King Macbeth. We have Frances McDormand as Lady Macbeth. All-star cast, and I think this will be up for best cinematography along with Dune at the upcoming Oscars. Then is The Last Duel. The Last Duel is an underrated film, and it's a very heavy film. I love the three perspectives. It very much has that Rashomon vibe, but I do, even though there's slight differences, I do feel like the perspectives should have been a little bit more different. It's almost like you're seeing the same thing three times. Now, it's not quite that way. There are subtle differences in length and perspective, but overall, I don't think this measures up to Gladiator or Kingdom of Heaven, but it's still among one of Ridley Scott's better works in the past couple of years, and by the time you get to that Last Duel, oh my god. Then I have Army of the Dead. It's been quite the year for Zack Snyder. I love this movie. This movie didn't even feel like a Netflix film. This felt like it should have been a major blockbuster during the summer, like in October for Halloween. Like, I love it. There are theories to a time loop, but overall, for its budget, it looks much bigger than what it cost, and wow. One of the better original horror ideas I've seen in a while, and I cannot wait to see Planet of the Dead. Dave Bautista surprised me in this movie. Like, really, there's a lot of depth there. Then there's Val, which actually was going to be in my top 10, but it's a documentary, but I love it because, you know, we have all these documentaries about celebrities, but we never have it from a first-person perspective. And the fact that Val is talking about his life and reminiscing and reflecting on that, with Jack Kilmer narrating it, his son, it's a heart-wrenching film and an uplifting, inspiring film, and I love that Val Kilmer has basically filmed home videos throughout the years and presented it in this way. I mean, there's just something with creatives. I've done that in college, just film like little shorts and stuff and like document it in like a video journal. You're gonna see Val Kilmer in a brand new light. After that, I have No Sudden Move. I love this film from Steven Soderbergh. This was almost in my top 10. Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle give great performances. We also have Ray Liotta and Brendan Fraser. Matt Damon in a cameo. Overall, this has a lot of twists and turns and double crosses and is a well-crafted crime film. Then we have Nobody, which really is almost at my top 10. Bob Odenkirk. You're not even going to picture Better Call Saul or Mr. Show. Like, I can't believe it. This is like John Wick with an average Joe, you know? I love it. It's more of an action comedy, but you can definitely tell it's from the writer of the first John Wick, and this movie is one of the best surprises I've seen in a while. Then for my final honorable mention is Kate. This is like Kill Bill Volume 1 if it was mixed in more with an anime film. I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Kate. This was a kick-ass movie, and I have to say, some of the Netflix films were better than the major studio films this year. Choose Me by Bandmate. That's all I'm going to say. After that, at number 10, to start off the list, is Dune. Dune is one of those once-in-a-lifetime type of films, you know, like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. I had mixed feelings, and the reason why it's low on the list is because I can't fully judge an incomplete film. It's only half the film, and I'm a huge fan of the novel. I've read the books many times, Dune all the way to Chapter House Dune, the prequels, everything. Seen the sci-fi Dunes with Children of Dune in the 2000 miniseries. David Lynch, even though it's completely different from the novel, there's certain moments in there that were done in 30 minutes and then it took 2.5 hours for this film to do. I don't know. It felt very drawn out, but I had more problems with how they presented certain things and what they omitted from the novel that they very easily could have had in the movie. And I know there's a ton of deleted scenes like Duncan Idaho's arrival and then the party scene and stuff like that. Overall, I thought the cast was excellent. Timothée Chalamet is perfect for Paul because he can convey that kind of innocence when he goes from Caladan to Arrakis to eventually being that brutal bastard. I love the Dune Messiah foreshadowing there with the visions. Zendaya as Chani. You have Javier Bardem as Stilgar. Oscar Isaac and Rebecca Ferguson I thought were the best in this film as Duke Leto and Lady Jessica. But it was missing something that felt, I don't know if it felt soulless or because I read the book, I felt like I was going through the motions where I was just left wanting to see more. And I really wish that they just waited to film it over a long period of time and split it up like Lord of the Rings. Instead of waiting 2 years, it would have been nice just to wait a year in between the releases because I really feel like this would have been better if I could see the second half. But I can't fully judge it because I've only seen half the film. Other than that, I love Hans Zimmer's score, even his tiny nod to the 84 Toto score. There's one little note towards the end when he's with the Fremen that sounds just like the 84 Dune. This was a blast, and I can see for people who aren't fans of Dune to get totally engrossed in this. I mean, it's pretty much politics in space. It's Game of Thrones in space is what Dune is. And there's just a lot of stuff there, a lot of layers, and it's a very hard book to adapt. And I liked what Denis Villeneuve did. He really brought the essence of Dune. I just wish they brought more elements from the book that I thought were completely either misinterpreted or just not presented in the film. But that's just me personally as a fan of the novel. But the stuff that it did get right, it got right. And I have to say, for an adaptation of a book, especially one as prolific as Dune, it could have been a lot worse. After that is No Time to Die. No Time to Die was a film that I unfortunately got spoiled by the ending by the UK audiences on social media 2 weeks before the release. So that affected some of my viewing. Overall, I thought it was very long. I didn't like the Lady 007. Ana de Armas was criminally underused. And Rami Malek was good, but he just wasn't in it enough. I didn't buy the whole relationship of James Bond giving up everything for Madeline, you know? It wasn't like Vesper and him. But this was a film that grew with me on repeated viewings, and I could see where they were going with this. I mean, if Casino Royale was the origin of Bond, Daniel Craig would only have to go out with the end of James Bond, you know? If anything, I actually have more of a problem with how Felix went out rather than Bond. I think they did Felix lighter, dirty in this. It was very well shot. A lot of Dr. No references, a lot of references to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Overall, this had a lot of love for the past 60 years of James Bond. It was quite the way for Daniel Craig to go out. As far as 007, I hope he comes back, because that was not the greatest way to go out. After that is The Suicide Squad. This film surprised me. This is what the first Suicide Squad should have been, but it also shows you what happens when a director actually gets creative control over his damn film. This was just a funny film. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit lower on the list because the comedy, even though it is funny, weighs the film down. It doesn't quite work the second time around because you realize it's nothing but jokes and like grotesque kind of like vulgar humor. And once you get over like the funny humor factor of that, it kind of goes down a little bit in my book. But overall, it's the most comic book filled Suicide Squad. It's almost like seeing the John Ostrander stuff of the 70s and 80s put into film. I loved how this embraced its comic book roots while also pushing the envelope with the violence and doing what the first movie should have done and just going for the R rating. Overall, this was almost like seeing like the Expendables or the Dirty Dozen, you know? It brought that element to it with a bit of comedy and comic book fun, and I really love this movie. It surprised me, and it was a really good year for DC Comics, to say the least. After that is Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up wasn't going to even be in my top 10. I saw it on Netflix, and this is such a wonderful satire from Adam McKay. This movie is pretty much the past couple of years of the pandemic. Politics and social media are going to fucking destroy us, man. Leo DiCaprio's rant in this is pretty much how I felt since 2020. No, really, I love the satire. This Jennifer Lawrence gives one of her best performances in years, and then we also have Meryl Streep. Oh my god, and Mark Rylance. He plays an amalgamation of Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk And the comedy in this is so funny and yet sad because this thing could totally happen. It's so damn true about our society right now that, yeah, this could definitely happen. I could see this happening, and that's a sad truth. It triggered a lot of people, but you know what? At the same time, it's talking about everyone. Much like Joker in 2019, it's talking about society. After that, at number 6 is Last Night in Soho. Oh man, I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan, and this film is the reason why I love films. This year had some really good films, some really bad films, and some films that I thought were soulless and overhyped. Last Night in Soho was not one of the ones that were overhyped. Last Night in Soho blew me away from his cinematography, the sound design. Edgar Wright, again, the work he did on Baby Driver is shown in this with more of a classical approach of 60s music, but it does have twists and turns that you just do not see coming. And I love it because, you know, a lot of movies that give so much away in the trailer that you know where it's going. And I thought I knew where Last Night in Soho is going, and then it just zigs where it should have zagged. And it's the most brilliant subversion. There's a lot of movies that go out of their way to subvert expectations, but Last Night in Soho does it in a good way. After that, at number 5 is Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi surprised me this year. I think it was the best MCU film and probably my favorite MCU origin since the original Iron Man. Simu Liu did a fantastic job as Shang-Chi. The Mandarin in this, I wish Iron Man fought this Mandarin. His story was even more compelling than Shang-Chi. Like, I felt more for the villain. They even make fun of the whole Mandarin twist in Iron Man 3. I liked Awkwafina as a love interest. We have some cameos from other characters in the MCU, but overall with the fighting and cinematography, this is like a kung fu film mixed with like anime fantasy. I loved it. It's like Dragon Ball Z if it was like with a Shawn Brothers kung fu film in present day, you know. After that, at number 4 is In the Heights. I absolutely love In the Heights. Lin-Manuel Miranda, you have the director of Crazy Rich Asians directing this. All-star cast. You even have Melissa Barrera in it from the latest Scream film, Jimmy Smits, just everybody. There's a lot of people from Hamilton and a lot of people from the stage production of In the Heights. Love this movie, and it doesn't matter what your background is. Like, I related to a lot of stuff as a Mexican American. You have Puerto Ricans, Costa Ricans, but it's really more about like community, not only with the Latin community, but like a community in general in this neighborhood. No matter what background you are from, you're going to know the struggles these characters go through. Your parents may have done it, you may have been doing it, or even your grandparents. And everybody has a struggle they're going through. Everybody deals with the human condition, and this film shows the human condition with the character of Yusnavi. And the music is just amazing. I love this musical, and it really should have gotten more love, I thought. It's funny because it's almost like a modern West Side Story, and you had that come out this year in a remake. But overall, In the Heights is just one of my favorite movies of the year that also gave me all the feels. It brings you sadness, but it also brings you joy. It's just an uplifting and inspiring film, and just definitely one of my favorite musicals in a while, and one of my favorite films of the year. After that, at number 3 is Spider-Man No Way Home. Ooh, this movie presented us a great multiverse story, and to be honest, Tom Holland gives his best performance as Spider-Man. He goes from Iron Boy to Spider-Man in this, but the true scene stealer is William Dafoe as the Green Goblin. Oh my god, he is evil in this. I love seeing Alfred Molina, Rhys Ifans, Thomas Hayden Church, and Jamie Foxx. You also have Doctor Strange. It's kind of cool seeing Spider-Man there. Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. Too bad we didn't get to see him as Daredevil or more Venom, but what really makes this film, and I don't think it would be nearly as good and nearly as high on my list, is the fact that it has Andrew Garfield and the Spider-Man I grew up with, Tobey Maguire. That's what truly makes this film, and I'm glad that this film not only gave the fans what they wanted, but it did more. You know, it knew that it couldn't just bring back the villains. They'd have to bring back the heroes as well. And this was a love letter to the past 20 years of Spider-Man in cinema. It's quite different when you watch a film that, again, instead of trying to undermine the fans or subvert expectations, it just basically gives the people what they want. And Spider-Man No Way Home did that while also adding some brand new stakes for the character and bringing us a Tom Holland Spider-Man. These past 3 films in the Homecoming trilogy have really been secretly an origin. And now we're to that college Spider-Man from the 90s. And by the end of it, you're going to be like, that's a Spider-Man from the comic books. That's a Spider-Man I wanted to see this whole time. So many crowd-pleasing moments, so many gut-wrenching moments, but overall, well-crafted film. Even though it does suffer from kind of a bad first 30 minutes, once the villains and the other characters come in, this film really excels to another level. And not only is it amazing, spectacular, but it might quite possibly be one of the most ultimate Spider-Man films ever made. After that, at number 2 is Ghostbusters Afterlife. Speaking of films made with love, this film is a follow-up. Yes, does it become a little derivative of the first film, absolutely, but it's been a while since I've seen a reboot sequel done with love that doesn't try to just take a giant dump on the film's legacy, character's legacy of previous incarnations. This wasn't Star Wars The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. This wasn't Terminator Dark Fate. No, Ghostbusters Afterlife was a true follow-up that honored and respected the original first two films. Unlike Spider-Man, I think could have actually held its own. But by adding the Ghostbusters, was just the cherry on top of the cake. Phoebe makes this role. Egon's granddaughter, the kids, podcast, her brother, the sheriff's daughter, everybody makes this film. And you also have Paul Rudd there in the mix, dating the mother. You have Annie Potts, Ernie Hudson, Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver, and Dan Aykroyd make appearances. Overall, this was Ghostbusters treated with respect and was far better than whatever monstrosity that remake was in 2016. Before I get to my number one, here is what some of you out there responded for your favorite films of 2021. Let's take a look. Thank you all for submitting. After that, at number one is Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's right, the Snyder Cut. Was there going to be any other film, really? I mean, it's not just bias. It's not the fact that I'm a Snyder fan, DC fan. I've wanted to see this, as well as many other fans and people wanted to see his version. See Zack Snyder become redeemed in the public eye. Even people who hated the previous films loved this film. This was a 4-hour epic. Have we gotten this a couple of years back? No, it probably would have been a bit shortened, but this is the best outcome, and it was quite amazing seeing this film. I know it was made in 2016, but nothing quite measured up to this movie. There's so many memorable moments. Like, you think about movies you like, and you can remember one moment there, you're like, that was an awesome moment. This movie had like tons of moments that could have been like memorable moments that you associate with this film. I don't care how many demons and how many hells he's fought. He's never fought us, not us united. I'm not broken, I'm not alone. Make your own future, make your own past. It's all right now. Not impressed. Like, there's so many moments. We'll use the always, ready there, our motto, you know? Just so many moments. I don't believe it. It's like, believe it. It's like, this one will be mine. I belong to no one. Like, there's just so many moments. This is like the epitome of what DC Comics is. This is like the quintessential DC Comics film. There have been many other films shorter, some would argue better, but none has like translated the comics and brought it onto screen much like Zack Snyder's Justice League. And it's a travesty that it's not continued, and it's a travesty we did not get to see this in the cinema. But you know, screens don't make a good or bad movie. Story and character does, and that's what this has, is a good story with great characters. It's like Star Wars, you know, I watched the original trilogy on VHS. I've never seen them in the cinema, but they're still the greatest trilogy ever made, you know? And this is my favorite film of 2021. Not only was it a film that I thought I might not see until years later, that I thought might have not been possible, but it's a film I believed in, and others believed in. When so many people were saying, you're crazy, there's no such thing as a Snyder Cut, it doesn't exist. Well, you know, I haven't seen Santa Claus, haven't seen the Easter Bunny, but you know what does exist? The Snyder Cut, and it's here, and it's my favorite movie of 2021. Again, thank you for those who submitted their favorites. This list took me forever. There's a lot of films I had to see. There's still a lot of films I have to see, but that's it for now. I don't think it's going to change that much. So, yeah, it was quite the year. Last year I had a problem filling up the top 10 list. This year I had a problem with like what to keep, because there was just so many films from a wide variety of quality, you know. For others who did not share their favorites, comment down below your top 10 or perhaps your favorite film of 2021. Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe for more videos and check out these other videos for more content. May you all stay safe and healthy out there during these coronavirus times. Till next time.